Okay, I thought I went live and I started talking and ranting and going on, and then I just realized that I wasn't even live. Such a rookie. I just thought I'd do a live stream because I'm sick of editing videos and I want to do something different. So I thought I'd live stream. So I was laying in bed last night, watching YouTube video, as I usually do, YouTube videos. I come across this video about 20 years in the future and all the things that could potentially happen. The video is called Life in 20 Years, My 2044 Predictions. AGI, fusion, biotech, quantum, milestones, and impacts. And I was just like, whoa, what the hell am I doing with my life? Will my job be obsolete in 20 years? And what's life going to look like? So, and then I just thought, I'm not going to waste time editing tomorrow night. I think I'll just do a live stream because I'm sick of editing. Even if I get no views, I don't care. Whatever. Anyway, this video is from Dave Shapiro. So, without further ado, let's just watch it. And I'll give you my thoughts on it. My uneducated input onto his thoughts and predictions. So, enjoy.
Obviously, the longer the time horizon, the harder it is to predict. But there's a few keystone technologies that I think are going to arise, and there are some predictable impacts that those are going to have. So this is my best case scenario over the next 20 years of some keystone technologies and the impacts that they will have.
So you just have to note that he's saying best case scenarios. So I don't know what the worst case scenarios look like, but I'm guessing they can be pretty damn devastating. Don't know.
So to outline kind of the parameters of this thought experiment, first, keep in mind that this is just my personal predictions. I'm not a betting man, so I'm not really putting any money on this. But I think I'll put together a pretty compelling argument. It is also a best case scenario, so it's not guaranteed by a long shot, but I do think that it's somewhat likely. Now, obviously, the future is kind of a distribution. It could be maximally good, maximally bad, and it might be somewhere in between. But based on some of the polls that I've run, people kind of expect a bimodal outcome where it will either be really good or really bad, and there won't be much gray area, which I tend to kind of agree with. But you never know. We might end up in kind of that middle gray area.
I don't get how they come to that conclusion that it's either going to be best case scenario or worst case scenario. I'm sure there's some sort of theory, but you would think the most likely outcome would be to end up in that grey area between the best and the worst outcome. That's what I would think, but I'm guessing smarter people have a different thought on this whole how the future will turn out.
Time will tell. So let's get right into it. So first and foremost, over the next 20 years, it's pretty much guaranteed AGI will arrive. Now, obviously, there's some disagreement. Some people, say it's not happening in 2024, maybe 2025, 2026. For those of us with their fingers on the pulse, especially when you look at the studies that show all the experts are kind of their predictions are exponentially decaying, and so you look at the exponential decay of those predictions versus the advance of time. Looks like 2026 now. But again, with the nature of exponentials, things happen sooner rather than later.
So I think what he's talking about with the exponential decay of people's theories in terms of their time frames is that their time frames are decaying and reducing, where the exponential increase of things that are happening that are meeting time frames a lot sooner. That's how I take what he's talking about, if that makes sense.
But what is this going to do? So first, it's going to be AGI very quickly gives way to ASI or whatever. And if you follow Connor Leahy on Twitter, he's kind of moved to the camp of there really is no difference between AGI and ASI. Once you solve all the problems of intelligence, you already automatically have ASI, which I'm kind of in favor of that because it's really nothing beyond moving the goalposts. As some of you out there have pointed out, If you were to put ChatGPT in its current form in front of anyone 10 years ago, they would have said, yeah, that's AGI. It can do pretty much any task that you give it. It fails at some, but it knows more than any single person, and it can do tasks that most people can't do. It can write computer code in any language, and do all kinds of plans and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, is the fact that we constantly move the goalpost in terms of what we expect of AGI to be, or what we expect of things in general to be. Where if you brought the stuff that we have these days and took it back 10 years or 20 years, people would say that is that thing, where these days we wouldn't give it that higher status of being something, because we just expect more and more as we move through time.
Anyways, in hindsight being 2020, in 20 years, we can continue having this debate. Was there a boundary between AGI and ASI? Did GPT-4 qualify as AGI? Maybe Llama 3 or GPT-5? Who knows? But...
so I think this video came out before the announcement that Gemini has now surpassed ChatGPT. So that's an interesting thing that's happened. A new player to the game, and which is going to help increase the progress to artificial general intelligence.
The idea here is that it will drive unparalleled economic progress. And we'll talk about this quite a bit, but one of the biggest things is like, okay, it'll lower the cost of goods and services. That's a good thing. It'll take our jobs. That's a bad thing. And so in this respect, it will force a transformation of society, both in terms of politics and economics, as well as social changes, which I'll also talk about. My next prediction is that we will have commercial fusion within the next 20 years. There's a lot of private startups that are working on this. There's also a lot of governments and intergovernmental research projects. Now, of course, the joke is that fusion is always 20 years away. However, one of the things that I pay attention to, and the way that fusion is being treated right now in terms of in the capital markets and in the VC firms, so VC is venture capital, is fusion is being treated right now the way that AI was being treated, kind of the way, circa 2015 when OpenAI was founded, and the way that solar was treated around 2010.
So I think fusion is going to be it's going to be a massive thing when they actually come out with it. It's going to change a lot of things. Having that type of energy, like, you just move away from, and even industries as well. You just move away from all those industries, fossil fuels, and even things like solar power. Like, I don't know how for big companies, they're not even going to think about that sort of stuff when you have cold fusion, or you have fusion in general. That's going to be crazy.
And so when you have this massive surge of investment, typically results follow. Some people have been talking about VR. There was a huge investment of VR with the Oculus Rift, the original Oculus Rift, which Meta bought, and now they're, Meta Quest 3, commercially successful. Now Apple has entered with a commercially successful VR headset. They're not perfect, but at the same time, you have a standalone headset that can orient you in time and space and also track your hands. Like, that is a pretty miraculous technology. So again, that pattern follows. Longevity research, for instance, is also something that is getting that same kind of treatment, where the investment is doubling almost every year, last I checked. And
that's another thing as well. If you have longevity, a lot of stuff going into longevity research, if you're able to extend the life of humans, then you're extending the experiences and the knowledge, and that just increases your exponential growth of things progressing even quicker, even faster. So it's like, all this stuff, this is what I found fascinating as well, is that all this stuff that he's talking about, they all combined, it's like a perfect combination of things that can make a fantastic future. a crazy future. Yeah, it's hard to think how it would be with all these things coming to fruition.
So when investment is going up exponentially, results tend to follow. So likewise, with commercial fusion, the investment is going up rather quickly, and so results tend to follow. And what this is going to have pretty much as profound of an impact on society as AGI will. And the reason is because if you suddenly have 100x the amount of energy available to do whatever you want with, a lot of stuff becomes possible that was not possible before. And this goes beyond the energy hyperabundance from just solar. So for instance, some things that are way too energy intensive to do today, like underground farming, recycling all materials, like we could literally empty every landfill.
I haven't heard of underground farming before. I don't know what that is, but sounds very interesting. Underground farming. I'm guessing you use the fusion technology to somehow light up and grow whatever you're growing. Interesting.
With the energy surplus from nuclear fusion, we could scrub the entire atmosphere of any particulates that we don't want and add particulates that we do want with that level of energy hyperabundance. We can desalinate enough water to regreen the Sahara and the Gobi Desert and everywhere else. We can make farmland under the ocean if we want to. We can make sure that the natural world we can actually reduce our impact on the natural world and undo a lot of the damage that we've done. It's really difficult to oversell what nuclear fusion could hypothetically do with the energy hyperabundance that it promises.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's a lot of problems to be solved, but if you saw in the news recently, for the first time, I think it was the National Ignition Facility. It might not have been that one, but somewhere here in America, we got 2 times the amount of energy out of a fusion reaction that we put into it. So that was a world record.
Well, so I don't know the whole extent of whatever he's talking about, this report or story, but if you get 2 times of the energy that you put in, isn't that solving the problem, or what's the issue? Because then you just put that 2 times energy back in and then you get 4 times and then you just keep going and going. Surely you can just do that, can't you? I don't know the extent of it, but sounds logical.